This is the video that I was afraid to film for a long time. But here I am, filming it. Greetings, this is not a reader. Welcome back to my channel. Now there's one interesting fact about this channel. This channel is a book channel. I love books. I love talking about them. I love discussing them. I love making videos about them. And I love annoying my friends and family about books. But you know one thing I love just as much as books? Heavy metal. It's another thing I'd love to talk about this channel. I began listening to metal and went back to reading books at the same time. And I enjoyed these things separately. I did not think that these things overlapped until I read A Song of Ice and Fire. Then I discovered that the books of George R.R. Martin were a basis for a metal song. I checked out the song, I decided to check more information about the band, and then things escalated quickly. If you have seen my previous few videos, you probably know that I'm a big Blind Guardian fan. It's a great band full of mirrors, bars, time, and large bookshelves. Before I discovered these guys, I only read Lord of the Rings and A Song of Ice and Fire. 10 books that I discovered because of Blind Guardian. If there's a series, in the words of Gimli, that counts as one. This one I wanted to get from the moment I heard the song. It influenced. I was at university at the time studying international relations, and I thought that this book would go along with my studies very well. But unfortunately I didn't find this book back in the day. I couldn't find it anywhere, at least not in Russian. I found this only a few months ago in English. Yes, I printed it. It's very small. The Tenure of Kings and the Magistrates. It's part 1. There are 4 parts. I read a few pages of this book, but I'm not ready to continue now. You know, I realized that it's good that I didn't find The Tenure and Kings and the Magistrates back in the day, because since there was no Russian translation and there was only English version available, I wouldn't have had the nerve to read this because my English skills were very low back in the day. This is a tract where John Milton defends and justifies people's right to execute a wicked king. Speaking of John Milton, I have shown this book in my videos multiple times. Unlike The Tenure of Kings and the Magistrates, I am willing to read this one very soon. Paradise Lost. An endless moral maze introducing literature's first romantic Satan. When I tried to find the books from Blind Guardian songs, this was one of the very few books that I could find a few years ago. But I didn't buy it because it was in English and I wasn't ready to read epic poems in English. I had the chance to read the Russian version, but I guess I'd have to forget the Russian version. I guess I'm destined to read this in English. It's an epic poem depicting the fall of man. Speaking of epic poems, I also have the Iliad by Homer. But unlike Paradise Lost, I do not rush to read the Iliad. I got this one 2 years ago, read a few pages, then I was like, I'm not mature enough for this one yet, put the book back on the shelf. Not today, Iliad. Not today. Your time will come. It's an epic poem about the legend of Achilles and the last few weeks about the battle between the Greeks and the Trojans. Now the next 2 examples are non-standard because it's less about the books themselves and more about the authors. The deal is that I tried finding the particular books, but ended up reading other books by the same authors. I bought this one in 2019, read in 2020. It's actually the very first book I bought because of Blind Guardian, and it's also the very first and the biggest disappointment. Gloriana by Michael Moorcock. I said in my Unhauling More Books video that you would see Gloriana again in one of the next videos, and here it is. Gloriana, I haven't given it away. I kept it for this video. As you can see, I hate this. Or to be exact, I heavily dislike this. The book is set in the kingdom of Albion. After her father's tyrannical rule, Gloriana ascends the throne and brings peace to her kingdom. But there are intrigues going on, and the entire kingdom is endangered when the Queen's Chancellor's best squire goes against him. Sounds interesting, right? You probably thought this one had a Song of Ice and Fire vibes. I did think so too. But then I read the novel. Why I dislike this book so much? Well, this book actually has the titular character, Gloriana herself, surrounded by characters who were like, the queen isn't satisfied, we have to do something about it. I am going to do something about it. No, I will. Gloriana, Gloriana, I'm thinking about you all the time. I'm not joking, this is literally the start of the book, but I would tolerate this if this wasn't the whole essence of the book. Granted, a few days ago I did check some information about this book in English, and the English annotation of this novel is quite different than the Russian one. The Russian one makes you think this is going to be about intrigues and death and betrayals in a Song of Ice and Fire way, or something like that. I felt kind of deceived by the description of the book, but even that isn't the worst thing. And it's not simply just about that this book is more about romance than the intrigue. You know the biggest problem I have with this book, why I didn't like it so much? Because even if I wasn't deceived, and if it wasn't simply about romance, the novel is still boring. The first half is kinda okay, but the second one got so boring. I got bored very much. By the way, I want to share two interesting facts about this book. Fact 1. This book originally had a more violent ending, but then Moorcock changed it to a less violent one. This edition features both endings. The second one, the non-violent one, is the canon ending. Fact 2. While Michael Moorcock decided that his novels were worth becoming rock and metal songs before Blind Guardian was formed. This edition features some translated, of course. I heard that Michael Moorcock himself participated in making these songs. I hated this book so much. For a long time I thought that I would never read another Michael Moorcock novel again. I am kinda glad that when I was getting lost in bookstores of Moscow, I did not find Michael Moorcock novels. But then I remembered that I gave Ray Bradbury a second chance. When I first read Ray Bradbury's book, I hated it, but then I gave him a second chance and read his another novel and I loved it. Probably I should give Michael Moorcock a second chance. Am I going to read the Elric saga? If these books find me, someone sends them to me in Russian, of course. I heard that Elric has some similarities with Geralt, our beloved Witcher. I'd take The Witcher, thank you very much. Alright, now let's move on to something positive. One fun fact. In the previous example, I tried finding a series and discovered a standalone novel. In this example, it's the other way around. I can't say that I read the full series, or to be exact, the books set in the same fictional setting, but I read one and I loved it. This is one of the best books I read. 13.5 Lives of Captain Bluebeard by Walter Moyers. I was searching for a wild ride through the night and found this. This book is set in the fictional country of Samonia. The story is about a blue bear and his life, starting with his childhood with the pirates, his studies at university, and so on. I'm not describing the book very well, please forgive me. This book is very funny, very rich in detail, and when it comes to names, Moyers could give J.R. Tolkien a run for his money. By the way, I absolutely loved how Moyers made fun of Deus Ex Machina cliché. I hope I pronounced it right. In short, it's a cliché when the hero is saved at the last moment. Moyers made fun of it very well. I also tried reading the City of Dreaming books, but I haven't finished it. I hope to get a wild ride through the night one day because I like the annotation. Sounds very interesting. Now the next two examples are kinda obvious. I've shown these books many times in my videos. Both are epic series and both became especially relevant in 2021 because both got screen adaptations. I will not talk about these books too much. I will only add that the core difference between these books, one was planned when I was going to Moscow, I mean I intended to buy it, and the other was not. The unplanned one, Dune by Frank Herbert, and the planned one, Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. A few words about Wheel of Time. Special thanks to Russian publishing house Azbuka. because in 2020 they reissued the novels. If Azbuka did not reissue the books, I wouldn't have read them for a long time. Now I'd love to say that this video isn't a top 10 list, but if it was, the final 3 examples would take the highest spot. But before I get to these 3 final examples, I'd love to make some honorable mentions. Stephen King's It. I bought the novel after I heard Blind Guardian, but not because of them. I watched the old adaptation, the Tim Curry version, and I liked it very much. And I heard a lot about this book and I wanted to read it. But I only read 400 something pages. I'm using a discount card as a bookmark. Because this book was very big, I couldn't go through this. I still haven't finished it. I hope to finish it one day. The Dark Tower series. I don't have the Dark Tower series with me anymore because I didn't like the edition. When I began buying the books in 2015, they were literally everywhere. I remember reading interviews with some metal artists and they stated that they liked Dark Tower very much. I get that this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I'm not a huge fan of the Dark Tower. Pardon me, the Dark Tower fans. The Witcher by Andrzej Sapkowski. As far as I know, this one is going to be featured in the upcoming album. Maybe the lyrics might be changed. I don't know. But anyway, I began buying the Witcher books in 2018 and I hope to get the last one this year and finish the series this year. I have been reading the books for 4 years already. American Gods by Neil Gaiman. It's the same as The Witcher. I read in 2018. When I was reading this book, I did have a feeling that this book was written by Stephen King, but without the horror aspects. I like the book, but I can't say that I'm a huge fan of it. By the way, I also want to change the edition because it's kind of small and the book is quite big. There are bigger editions and I hope to get them one day and unhold this one. I heard that there was going to be a song about American Gods. I was ready to quit everything and read this one. I didn't. I will probably read this again one day when I get the new edition. Goethe's Faust. Just because. And I'm also going to add some demons and wizards here because I'm a massive cheater. The Picture of Dorian Gray. I read this one long ago in 2013. I think I should read this one again. When I got back into reading, this was one of the very first books I read. And His Dark Materials. I wanted to read this one for quite a long time and I found this book in 2020. I have seen the film and the first season of the show. The first 2 books are amazing, but the third one, don't get me started on the third one. While researching for this video, I found out that one of the songs from the first Demons and Wizards album was about Paradise Lost. Also, the second album is called Touched by the Crimson King, the Dark Tower vibes, even though I quit the Dark Tower before reaching the Crimson King. Metalheads really love it and the Dark Tower when it comes to Stephen King. Team The Shining here. Alright, here honorable mentions end. Once again, this isn't a top 10 tier or whatever, but the last 3 examples are too epic. Technically, this series belongs in the honorable mentions list. To be fair, if I read these books earlier, I would have added them into the honorable mentions list, but I'm a massive cheater. And these books are way too epic to receive just an honorable mention. I can only say thank you to Blind Guardian and to Nightwish and to a few booktubers. They led me to discover one of the best books I ever read. The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I love this book. This cover is very beautiful and this photo is very cute. Kingkiller Chronicle, the story of a young lad named Quoth, told in flashbacks by adult Quoth, where he tries to study at university, to play music, to find the mysterious Chandrian, and simply to survive. Someone's parents have been singing entirely the wrong sort of songs. This is the land that haunts both Quoth and me. I really hope that the third book, The Doors of Stone, is going to reveal more about the Chandrian. They have been a mystery for the first two books. This book was so good, I ordered The Wise Man's Fear before I reached the chapter 100. Yes, I'm definitely going to quit everything at some point and read this masterpiece again. Contrary to the previous example, this example is kinda heavy, because the series is too big. I heard about this series in 2020 when the third Demons and Wizards album came out, but I didn't pay much attention to it. Then Violent Shadows came out, and then there's also this video whether you should or should not read this series in Russian, but I'm going to link it in anyway. So imagine this situation. On one hand, you have a metal band singing the series into your ears, and on the other hand you have booktubers promoting these books, saying why they're good, why they're worth reading, blah 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 blah. By the end of the year I knew I wanted to read this series. They took a lot of time and energy from me, but at the end of the day it was worth reading these books. The Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. When I bought this book, Way of Kings, I was afraid of reading it because it was 1,000 pages long. I failed reading it by Stephen King, but nonetheless I managed to read this and Words of Radiance and Oathbringer. And I'm going to read Rhythm of War this year. Before I ordered this particular edition, I saw these books in English in a store, but I knew very well that I was going to read the Russian version. First of all, this edition is very beautiful, just look at it. Second, the translation was very good. Third reason is that at the time I bought this book, I was already reading the Kingkiller Chronicle in English, and my energy was already taken. This book took a lot of energy from me in Russian, and if I read this one in English, it would have taken even more energy from me. Once you discover Blind Guardian or booktubers, prepare to get injected with a lot of fantasy, very big epic fantasy. And now my 10th and final point for this video. This band really got me into a lot of Tolkien stuff. Yes, I know I said one book per series, but in case of Tolkien it's worth showing all the books, because Tolkien became a must-have author for me. It isn't simply just about one book. I want to get a lot of books by Tolkien, and to read them, of course. Now I sense a huge irony. In my How I Got Into Metal video, I called this band Tolkien Nerds. Guess who is the Tolkien nerd now? Probably this would trigger a lot of Tolkien fans, but only 3 years ago I read Tolkien lower than many other fantasy writers. Listening to Blind Guardian made me rediscover Tolkien and to make a few other discoveries. I'm not going to reveal these discoveries, that's a topic for another video, and in that video I will reveal why Tolkien was lower than other writers. I can say that if I was making a top tier list of fantasy writers, Paul Tolkien now would be a lot higher. Only 5 or 6 years ago I annoyed everyone with Game of Thrones. Now I annoy everyone with Tolkien, and I even got the Fellowship of the Ring as a birthday gift for my friend. Notice that all the books I showed you are in English. Oh, and I also want to add this both. It's in Russian because I didn't find the English version. If anyone knows the interview in English, please let me know down in the comments. It says, as musicians we get inspired by Tolkien. Tolkien put so much music into his work that it's impossible not to hear it. And this is why I wanted to read Tolkien in English. When I read Tolkien in Russian, I always skipped songs. I was annoyed every time songs came. But when I read Fellowship of the Ring in English, I reread the lyrics multiple times. I'm not saying I memorized them, I did not of course, but I enjoyed them. It's hard to read Tolkien in English, but it's worth it. Especially if you are a foreign speaker like me. For those of you who read Tolkien in English as a foreign speaker, I salute you. Is there another book I want to get? Yes, I'd like to read Otherland by Ted Williams because it's said to be a decent sci-fi, and I declared 2022 a year of sci-fi. Otherland needs a Wheel of Time treatment, aka to some Russian publishing house to reissue the books. They did reissue some other Ted Williams books like Memory, Sorrow and Thorn series. haven't read these. That's all for now. Now I need to go back to buying books independently, at least for a while. Also, by the way, I found it very funny that as I'm editing this video, the band is releasing their Spotify playlists. I really want to check them out, but instead of I chose to finish this video while also using Spotify screenshots. Alright, that's all. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my video. Did you discover Blind Guardian because of a book or the other way around? Please let me know down in the comments. Please like and subscribe and follow me on Linktree. My social media links are over there. See you next time. Goodbye.